Hi and welcome back. Now in the last video what we did, we used the transform command to change the shape and the size of these images here so that they sat nicely at a little bit of an odd angle, but to really give a bit of a dynamic to the composition. Okay, now I'd like to make them stand out a little bit more because there's some dark areas of the train here that do blend into the dark areas of the background here. And what I thought I'd do is try and make them look a little bit like a photograph. And to do that we're going to use an effect. Now an effect is a thing like a stroke which is round the outside. It can be a drop shadow. There's several different types of effect. And what we're going to use is a stroke and a drop shadow to try and make these look as though they're little photographs and they're just standing a little bit proud of the background layer. Okay, so let's have a go. So first we'll pick an image that we want to start with. So I'm going to click on image 1 to make that the active image, and that's this image here, the Flying Scotsman one. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and try and bring up the FX panel, and that's down here at the bottom of the layers panel. You'll see the FX icon. If we click on that, it brings up a lot of blending options. Now you can go to the individual ones, but what I'll do is we'll go to the blending options one that's like the master one, and we'll bring this up. And here we can see that under blending options we've got bevel and emboss and stroke and inner shadow and inner glow. These are all effects that we can add to text and to images. Now we'll target the stroke one, so I'm going to double click on the stroke one, and immediately you'll see it's put a default stroke around it, and it looks pretty good just out the bag really. So if we look here, we've got the stroke dialog here is consisting of the stroke area, which has got the structure and it's got a fill. Now in the structure we've got a size slider, and this size slider determines how thick or how thin this stroke actually is. I think I'll set it to about 10, see what that's like. That's not bad. Now position is where the stroke actually comes in relationship to the edge of the image. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. You might be able to see a little bit better. We'll just take it up to, yeah, something like that. Now we've got 3 different options. We've got outside, inside and center. If we go inside, what you'll find is the stroke will be constrained inside the document boundary, so the edges are going to be sharp. So this is going to be a 90-degree right angle. Now if we decided to go outside, you'll see that it jumps outside. And what it does is it gives us a rounded corner. And if we go center, it's going to be half and half, so we're going to have a little bit more of the image and we're still going to get a rounded edge on it. Well, I'd like this to look like a little bit like a photograph, so I'm going to select inside, and that's going to square those edges up for me. And I'm happy with about, well, let's set that for about 20 pixels, so you can type it in or you can move the slider, and I think that looks pretty good. The colour, well, it's already defaulted to white, but if it didn't, then if I click on the colour swatch, it brings up the colour picker. And now here what I can do is I can decide which colour I want. Now this colour picker, it basically goes from black at the bottom up to the colour at the top. And what this is the changing in the luminosity. So it's going from darker to lighter. Now if we go horizontally, what we're changing is the saturation, so we can go from grey, which is virtually 0 saturation, right up to a really saturated colour, whichever colour it is. In this case it's red. Now at this left hand edge here we have black, which is right at the bottom, so if I click at the bottom you'll see that I get pure black, and if I click at the top left hand corner I get pure white. And that's what I want. So I'm going to click OK. Right, so we've got a stroke round, and now I think I'll go for a drop shadow. Well, the drop shadow's at the bottom, so I'll double click on drop shadow, and you can't see it very well. You can see it just a little bit peeping out there, And again, it doesn't do bad right out of the bat. So here we've got a distance of 15. If I make that bigger, you'll see that the actual drop shadow gets bigger. So I'll just pull that back a little bit. And then we've got the spread, that's how far it spreads. And then we've got the size, which is how big it is. So I'll just leave them more or less where they are. They don't look bad. And you can actually go into the image and you can drag the shadow about from actually inside the image, which I quite like. Well, I'll just set that there. That's not bad. Maybe a little bit more spread. And just soften it a bit. And probably bring the distance back a little bit. Yeah, no, that's not bad. Now we've obviously got the angle of the light. So here we can see that if I move this round, it's as though this is the angle of, if you imagine an imaginary sun, which way it's shining. Well, at the moment it's shining that way. The shadows would be cast on this side. If I turn it round that way, then the shadow's now cast on this side. I'll just put that a little bit higher. Something like that. We've got an opacity. We can change the opacity, so we can take it down a little bit if it's too much for us. And we can change the colour. Well, of course, I want a black drop shadow, because a white one probably wouldn't look so good. Okay, so now we've got a stroke and we've got a drop shadow. And when I click OK, it'll apply both them onto the layer. You can see here montage 1 now has a stroke and a drop shadow. Now we could now repeat this process on the other 3 images, but I'm going to show you a sneaky but nice way of doing this. If you hold the Alt key down and you drag on the effects, so we've got this little effects here, and you drag and you drop it on another layer, it copies those effects. So again, I'm going to hold the Alt key, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, and I'll drag the effects onto that montage 3, and I'll drag the effects onto montage 4. And that looks pretty cool. Now this Flying Scotsman one, this looks a little bit strange, I think because it's a little bit smaller than the others. Okay, well let's deal with that. So I'm just going to get my move tool, and you can do that by pressing the V key. I'll just drag this one down a little bit. I'll click back on the Flying Scotsman one, which is this one that I want to choose. And I'll go to Control and T, which is for transform. Hold my Shift key down and just drag that out so it's a little bit bigger. And then I'll click the tick to accept it. Well, that's it for this video. How to put styling round an image here, which we've got like a stroke and a drop shadow, just to make the image stand out a little bit from the background. Right, in the next video we're going to look at adding text and adding a style to the text. So I'll see you then. Bye for now.